which was asking.
Hello, good afternoon. Yes, I know we've been live for 5. It's James. He just wants to press the button. He's the producer, and he's like, lads, we go live at 1:15 today, and I'm pressing the button, and it's up to you to go live.
Sounds like I'm doing my job perfect.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Ooh, someone's touch. I was saying this is our fault, not his fault, because he pressed the button. No, I wasn't.
I didn't hear the 3, 2, 1.
No, he did. He did say we're going live now, and he pressed the buttons in to say, "I'm doing my job. I'm not being sacked."
Good job we didn't say anything.
I'm not being sacked for not putting the final word out that Ped didn't discover till 2:30 this morning. That's a completely separate thing.
That's why the views are so crap, is it? Because it went out in the middle of the night.
No, that's because someone forgot to put it live yesterday at like 6 o'clock. But we won't mention that.
Was there any spelling mistakes?
No, there's no spelling mistakes. We won't mention that. He forgot.
And where's the producer cam? What's happened to that? In the good old days of Ned, he'd be on all the time.
People don't ask for him. That's the difference. And that's not any critique on James, because James is doing his job, and that's no critique on Ned either. But people just wanted to see Ned.
Yeah.
People aren't asking to see James because
a ginger with that background's easy.
But it's because James doesn't chime in as much as Ned did. That's the difference. Because he's got work. Because he can multitask.
He's edgy when you're criticising him.
Oh, he doesn't like that. Well, I hadn't even criticised him. I was going to praise him for doing.
Anyone would think he was 6'4" and physically intimidating or something. Yeah. You're not 6'4", are you?
I think I'm about 6'2".
Only 6'2". Yeah. Not compact like me and Baz.
No.
James is a bear of a man. That's all I would say. He's a bear of a man. He's got that.
He's got more edison.
You know, if you got him in like the mountains in Colorado, walking slowly in a slightly fuzzy viewed camera, and he turns over, you go, yeah, it's Sasquatch. Yeah, you could see that, couldn't you? The feet, the shoes.
Is that why you wear yellow? So there's no
confusion? There's no. People go, what's that there? That can't be a lost creature. James, though, you're never sure. And also with James he comes in every day like he's been prepared to be whisked off to the Andes.
I'm ready for that.
Every day it's like someone might kidnap me and drop me in the Alps today. Every day he's prepared for that.
That's not how he comes in, though. He gets changed.
No, he gets changed
before you
comes in shorts.
Yeah. Showing his physique off.
That's fair play to him.
I mean, I didn't even know 10 packs existed until I saw James.
I mean, I didn't. I still don't know they existed because I've never seen him getting changed. But listen, if that's what goes on before I come in
before
then,
5 to 1.
No, I'm quite. I was here at 12:30. I was just looking at planes.
Oh, that was
outside.
Oh yeah, the big.
I was just standing there looking at planes. Going, I like planes.
Plane with a big nose.
Yeah, the beluga.
Yeah. So, what's your favourite plane then?
My favourite plane.
If you like planes, you must have a favourite.
I don't know if I like planes. I just when the beluga plane flies past, it always makes me smile.
All right.
Because it's got a whale's face painted on it. I'm a simple guy. It's
got wings or something in there.
Yeah, it's got big, massive wings. So,
yeah. Where's it come from? Where's that?
It comes from France, doesn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, it comes from France.
Going to North Wales,
and it flies into. Well, it's not really North Wales technically. It's Queensferry, isn't it? So that's right on the border.
Wrexhamish.
No. like Queensferry. That's not Wrexham.
No. I'm trying to think where BAE or whatever.
It's
is
Broughton.
That where it is?
Broughton.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, so it is. Yeah.
It's Broughton.
It's in England.
Yeah. It's right on the border.
So where does it land? Speak. And then
no, it lands at Broughton. There's an airport. It's not a commercial airport.
Just a little short runway that they can land on.
What a fascinating. No, it can't be a short one either, can it? Because it's a big, massive plane.
Yeah, but what's its takeoff distance and all
that? I mean, what I will say is
likes planes to look at.
I have actually watched a documentary about this plane, but I can't really remember. But it's a big old boy.
I used to live under the runway in Riyadh. The takeoff thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had this chat with Astro about the transporters that used to go to refuel the AWACS over the Gulf. And when they go over your building at about 100 feet,
yeah,
the whole thing shakes.
Yeah.
You could be screaming at the top of your voice and you wouldn't hear me.
Yeah.
So they're all noisy buggers as well.
Well, Astro would know. He used to sit in the back of them.
Yeah.
He used to sit in the back of them.
Tethered.
So he didn't fall out, luckily.
He's here now, isn't he, Astro? Is he over?
Couldn't say where he was. That's up to Astro to tell the world where he is, not up to us. Anyway, let's get into some
He's an Anglophile.
Let's get into some football chat.
Footy.
Tuesday. got a week where we've got no football till Saturday. I mean, who'd have thought that?
It's less than a week, don't it?
Yeah, it is less than a week now.
Next game, Brighton.
But I think as this week goes on, and obviously as we get into next week, I think people are going to start getting a little bit twitchy, as people do.
About transfer window.
About the transfer window. We're coming into... We're in the thing about it is the second half of the month is when it starts getting busy.
Yeah.
As people start shaking out what they've got, what they haven't got, who's injured, who's not injured. Manchester City have brought a couple in the last couple of days, and I think...
Unlimited cash, you see, because they spend what they want.
Yeah. Obviously, Villa have gone in for Giran, and obviously we'll be talking more about this when we do...
they have Giran already, don't they?
The what?
Didn't you just say Villa?
No, Villa.
Gone in for Giran.
West Ham are trying to get him.
It's the claret shirts. They're confused. Yeah.
So there is
a lot of money for him, isn't it? Do you think?
No, I think that's cheap for him. I think he's a goal scorer.
Okay.
But anyway, the market's starting to move a little bit.
Yeah.
So obviously it starts dropping then into where we are. Leo, obviously we've been linked with Newman. What is it? Newmar. Yeah. Been linked with Newmar, and obviously. That was before Moyes came in. Maybe Moyes has had a little look, but Leon are playing some jiggly pokery, aren't they? They're selling players to themselves and then selling them on and making some money. So that might be off the table now, even though I don't think it will. But after seeing the first couple of Moyes games, do you think what we're after in the market may have changed now after those games?
I think it might have changed because the manager's changed, you know, and I'm not convinced personally that that's necessarily what should happen. It does bring into question our use of the director of football type model. The thought that since the last window closed, Kevin Thelwell and his team have been working to one agenda, and then with a few weeks of the window to go, the manager changes and he says, "Oh, I've got to look at all this now." I think it's an interesting one. I think Jake O'Brien, obviously performing reasonably well the other night, helps him think, oh, maybe something I thought I needed, perhaps I don't need, notwithstanding we've got loads of right backs. I think the coaching and presumably the instruction as well that's gone to Mikalenko perhaps is suggesting there's less of an issue over that side. So conclusion is it's still pace that we need for me, and it's someone who can contribute to goals. And Lindstrom's helped, but it's just, you know, one swallow doesn't make a summer, does it? No. And you can't say, well, let's wait till the next game, you know, because it's the clock's running, isn't it? The idea, though, that we could have a player who wants to join and an owner or indeed a club who are prepared to sell, but then we go, oh, well, we'll have a think about it when it looked like it was over. That's all the traditional Everton things of losing deals because we're not decisive enough. Yeah. You know, and we talked frequently, or I did, or we did, when I'm in that chair, about wanting decisive leadership. And we've gone into a bit of a contemplation period, haven't we? Yeah. And from a manager's point of view, I completely and utterly get it.
Yeah.
Because, but we shouldn't be at this late stage looking at players who we may be offering multi-year contracts to and changing our minds. I wouldn't have thought. It's different if David wants to bring in a couple of loans or something and he knows that they're only here till the end of the season and then he gets his big reset, assuming everything's gone well. But we're back around that loop. We'll just have to wait and see.
But there has been changes, hasn't there? Because obviously with the injury to Thingo, whose name I'm just completely blanking on, from Chelsea.
Everton player?
Yeah,
Roja.
Roja. Sorry, my mind just went...
I was going to let you go longer.
With him being injured, then Everton might have to obviously, it's now they're sorting out whether they send them back or not. Probably
sure if they can.
Probably so. Well, he probably can.
It's financial
They just have to sort a deal out, don't they? Which just sounds ridiculous, but for the players, not ours. But you're sending them back, then you're opening a spot. Then you have to assess whether you're obviously going to bring another centre forward in, where Schmidt is, what you're doing with Beto. I think it's a lot of spinning plates, isn't it? Where that's those little complications.
I think that's okay. That's reacting to events, isn't it? You know, if the club had a plan that says Schmitty's on his way, Brozier's fit, he's getting some minutes, DCL's still there, and we're going to let Beto go. There's your plan. And then that gets kiboshed a little bit by either A, Chimiti has a relapse or something, or in this case, Brozier gets injured, right? But the debate with Chelsea can't be huge. If we recall at the other end of the windows, they paid his wages because he wasn't fit.
Yeah.
We're sending him back. Surely we should pay the wages in a quid quo pro, right? Now, we have to then put a value on having the loan slot to play with, because we're not going to save the money. And clearly you do a bit of horse trade and see if you get a bit of both. We get the loan slots, so that then allows us to get a replacement for Brozier on loan. And we perhaps don't pay all what we were paying if Brozier had stayed.
Yeah.
But if I'm Chelsea, I'm going, well, you've got him till the end of the season. That's the default.
Yeah.
Convince me, how much how much value do you want to place upon having an available loan slot?
Yeah.
And if it was me, I'd just suck it up.
Yeah. No, well, they're going to have to.
We don't, because the alternative to not being able to bring, say, a loan to fill that slot is you have to buy someone.
Well, at the end of
slot.
the day,
or you get turned over by DCL as well, because he goes, well, I'll sign up or whatever.
Well, with him, at the end of the day, you're paying his wages to just be getting treatment at Chelsea.
Yeah.
Whereas you might as well try and do a deal, pay him up and send them back anyway to be getting treatments at Chelsea and have a loan space. So
you can convince yourself you save a few pence because you're not actually doing the rehab.
Yeah, and you're not getting any benefits out of it.
But that's a quick conversation. If you're decisive in making your decisions because you know what your financial status is and all that stuff, whether you've got someone in the pipe to replace him or not, it doesn't really matter. He's not going to do anything here.
No.
Now, you could argue that you get to the end of the window, you haven't brought in another striker, and he will play this season, potentially, even if it's only the last 2 or 3 games. Then you're into, well, should we keep him around? But you've got to know that the slot's available to be able to go and get somebody.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's the other side of it, isn't it? Is there somebody available to take that slot? Again, you could send them back, have a slot there that just sits there and you don't do anything.
I'm sure
with
we'd use it, even if it wasn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the trade-off, isn't it? Dan on the super chat says, "Is Thelwell a problem for the club as he goes back to the same players every window and have a hard time to finish the deal and has a hard time finishing the deals?"
I think Kevin isn't a problem for the football club. The football club's inability to make decisions or appear to make decisions in a timely way is a problem. But we're only on the outside looking in. For all we know, they have made decisions. Just because they're not standing on a box somewhere telling us what they are doesn't mean they haven't made them. But unfortunately, over recent years, we could have had this chat we're having now. You get to the end of the window and you go, well, there you go. They hadn't made those decisions that day because it just drifts. I think it's an interesting one. How long has David Moyes been, quote, allowed, unquote, to think about it before we go for it?
Yeah.
And you would think, which is why how you open this up, I suppose, that no later than this week. Because we all know it goes mad next week. And, of course, between now and next week is another round of games where clubs who perhaps think they're okay could get an injury or, all sorts of things can happen. So being decisive in your decision-making is a great attribute, and we just don't have it yet, do we? By the
well, also, you haven't got much time, and you've got to make sure, as you're saying then, things can happen. Things have already happened while he's been here. Injuries will be happening. Players will be improving. You get to look at, last week, Jake O'Brien could have been going. You could have we're sending him on loan.
Yeah.
Suddenly, he might be a part of the starting 11 every week. Same with someone like Lindstrom. That the things are changing every game, so you've got to know exactly what you want and stick to it. And this week might be the week where the negotiations are going on under the radar. I hope they are. You are ringing round. You are finding out who's available. You are finding out who wants to come. Of course, other people are doing similar. So
they all are.
It's shifting all the time.
Most clubs have got what we need: pace.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we need pace in the team. Even if it's coming off the bench, when the game's open a bit more and stuff like that. So I'm sure David knows that. We chatted briefly last week, whenever it was, didn't we? Or maybe it was on the sofa, I can't remember. But ultimately, defensively, we're sound, aren't we? So it's all got to be, really, if you've got limited resources or you've got limited slots or whatever they are, it's going to be an offensive area, surely.
Well, I mean, you could say, though, full-backs are offensive now, couldn't you?
You could.
I mean, I still think we need a left-back. I'm not. You know, Michalenko to me is not good enough and never will be good enough. It's as simple as that.
Listen, in some respects, I agree, right? But if we are able, for example, to bring 2 or 3 players in, let's use that. Then if one of them is a left back, it's the third player you bring in. It's not number 1 or number 2. And so let's get 1 and 2 over the line, and those ones need to include pace and be in offensive positions.
Yeah.
Because the manager might think, you know what, just by instruction and a little bit of a whispering here from Leighton Baines, Michalenko will do till the end of the season.
Yeah.
It's all about priorities, isn't it? But then alongside that, of course, is if David thinks, you know what, I think 3 at the back's the way to go. Then you want more from your left back than Michalenko can probably deliver. He's more suited to a 4, isn't he? So interesting times, as always.
No, that's it. And as I said, I hope people don't get nervous. Or,
They will.
You know, I hope they don't. I hope they don't.
Everyone does.
We've the last couple of Januaries have been obviously quiet for us anyway, and I don't think we should. I think the club have been making it quite clear there's not a lot of room, but it's what they determine is are we desperately in need of players, and if we are, they have to be the right players, don't they? There's no point rushing in and just going, oh, we'll grab him, you know, because that can lead you to situations with Brozier where it's a risk, and it's not backfired on us, but it's gone the way his career's gone in the last 3 years.
He's unlucky, hasn't he?
He's been very unlucky. You just have to be decisive, I think, and know what you want. And I'm just not sure whether we know what we want yet.
Well, we should.
Well, as I said then, you know, you could have said on
September, October, November.
I know, but you could have said on Saturday we needed a new right back, and now you can convince yourself we don't need a new right back. Do you know what I mean?
No. Sorry, you know, and I haven't said it for a while, but to dive the plan the dive isn't impacted about, you know, how strong the waves are or what colour the water is. You know what I mean? Games are always going to make you feel good or bad, aren't they, depending on the outcome.
Yeah.
We got trashed the other night against Tottenham. We think, oh my goodness, we need 10 players. Yeah. So that's why you have to hold your nerve. You have your plan and you execute upon it. If you change a key influencer of the decision-making process, which we did with the manager, then the first thing that Kev and David Moyes do is they sit down with, this is our plans for January. Where are you at? Now, if he says, well, I need to see first, well, you've got to have that conversation, haven't you? Well, by all means, you're going to have to see, but it's quite possible some of the targets are going to go or change their mind or not be whatever, whilst you're doing that. And he'll go, yeah, but there's no point you just throwing a player at me that I don't really know about.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, surely, with stats and all that sort of stuff, there aren't huge amounts of surprises to managers, are there? So I'm ever the optimist. They know what they're doing. Behind the scenes, they're getting on with it, and it'll all be all right.
I think the good news is that I think a lot of the other teams that we are in and around, or you know, maybe just a little bit above us, they're not in the market at the moment.
No.
And funny enough, the teams that are above us in the table, certainly Spurs and Manchester United, they're not going to be in that short-term market. They're not going to be looking for those players. I think the ones below us, with PSR certainly, are all being very careful. You know, I know Ipswich have brought a couple in. I can't imagine they haven't really got PSR problems because it's all new money.
The one that might go for broke would be Leicester, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't know, because I mean they're selling Tom Cannon, which will aid us, give us.
Are we getting a kickback?
$2.5 million, I think, off
not
that.
Bad, then.
So they'll make their money. What?
$500,000. Is that all?
I thought it was 25%.
Oh, always on the profit. Because they're making a few mil, aren't they? I think. 10 million each. Yeah, a few mil on profit.
Yeah. So. Okay, so all right, so they've got a, so they're getting, so what do they do with that $9.5 million? It's, you know, is that covering them, or will they reinvest that? We don't know. They might have a new manager before the end of the month, so they might have to have a little look at that as well. So, I think the market's still pretty open. Just there's not loads going on. So I still think there's there are targets out there, and people are willing to move players around certainly because of PSR in this country. So there are big opportunities, but you've got to find the right player. I mean, you can't just dive in and go, we'll have him because he's available.
No. Which is why 4 months of planning.
Well, that's the big problem, isn't it?
Unpicked in a few weeks.
Yeah,
doesn't sound sensible.
No, and that's the director of football versus sort of the manager argument, isn't it? This shouldn't be. It shouldn't matter who the manager is.
Correct.
The director of football should have already established where we're weak, and have
in consultation with the manager,
and have to. I do understand that the targets that for this manager might be different who the manager wants. The targets he picked might be different from the targets.
Well, that's where you're on the nub of what director of football is all about. You know, the manager should be saying, for example, I need a pacey winger, or I need a centre forward, or I need whatever. Not, I want Danny Ings. That's not what managers should be doing. If you're committed to the director of football, and certainly no manager should be able to have the final say on a player whose contract is going to be longer than his is.
Yeah.
You know, and there's some simple rules you could apply, couldn't you? We're not going to sign a player on a 3-year contract when you've only got 18 months left on yours, or 6 months, or whatever it might be, because we have to live with it when you've gone. Someone's got to, for our club at least, maybe we just break the cycle of changing the manager every 5 minutes. But we've got to, if we're going to frequently change the manager, and some clubs make that look okay, don't they? Change the manager quite frequently, but they've all got good recruitment processes, director of football who have final says and all those sorts of things. And, you know, when a guy comes through the door, and we said this about Deitch, you know, we brought Deitch in on wages and all that sort of stuff as if we needed him more than he needed us.
Yeah.
And, you know, you've got to be able to negotiate as well.
Yeah.
But we're in a better place because we won a football match.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's
so
probably
it's not as bad as it would have been.
It's give everyone. I think it's give them a little bit of time, hasn't it? Maybe to pick the targets a little bit better. But you just hope that, as I said, we're just looking at the targets that were already established, and it isn't a case of going for new people, because it's the way, like you said before, the work gets done in the months prior to find that list, to provide that list of players that you know that you need when you look at your squad. And you're like what you said before, you shouldn't take one game. You shouldn't go, oh, he played well, or it should be like, yeah, but we know there's a problem there. Mikalenko can't play well one game and you go, we don't need a left back. No. It should be, we know we need a left back. We know what there's quality out there that can push Mikalenko every single week. And we have an option out there every single week, because at the end of the day, as we've established and as we established on Sunday, the squad isn't big enough. It's not good enough. The last 20 minutes, last half an hour of games is always going to be our Achilles heel against anybody. If they can bring on a similar level to what they've already got, if our levels are dropping or we don't have like-for-like players, that has to be sorted out immediately.
Yeah, well, it's not going to be sorted immediately, is it? Because you can't fix the ills of whatever, in one window. But the manager, David Moyes, said when he walked through the door, which wasn't that long ago, despite what it seems like, because he was asked about relegation fight, wasn't he? And he said something like, well, a few weeks ago, I didn't think there was any chance. Well, those few weeks ago from the outside looking in would have been no Brozier, no Chimisi, no Garner, no McNeil, all of whom, to varying degrees, excluding Brozier, of course, are going to be available to him, right? So let's just see. We're all guessing, aren't we? But we know we lack real pace.
Yeah.
And we could see the way we played the other day, how real pace would really hurt the opposition if we can create that room. It's all broke. I know it's a poor defensive play from Tottenham, but I don't care which team you are in the league. If someone like Ndiaye is running at you at pace, you can jump. It's going to cause problems.
Well, there's places in our team that people mightn't see it straight away where centre back's a problem for pace. Tarkowski gets done for pace every single time.
He does.
And if you want to be braver, you're going to need two centre-backs with pace. Because if one goes and it leaves the other one, that's a problem, but it's not a problem for right now. And it wasn't a problem under Sean Dyche because we sat so deep it didn't really matter. But if you want to press high, your centre-backs have got to fill that space. And if they can get done for pace, then that has to be looked at.
Look how much Tottenham are missing what's his bloody name?
Van der Ven.
Yeah, who's blinding pace, get them out of so much grief.
Yeah.
right?
Well, basically it's the cornerstone of how they play. Isn't it?
Absolutely, right up on the halfway line. The fastest guy on the pitch is wearing a white shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as long as he's alert, he's never going to be done in a sprint, right?
Yeah.
But they carry on playing that way without that pace.
Yeah.
So, and we saw what happened against us.
So so it is a case.
We don't have pace.
No, we don't. We don't have pace, and that's why we sit so deep, and that's why. And then when we do push up, we are susceptible to. I mean, it's happened. It's probably happened about 4 or 5 times in the last 6 weeks where someone has gone past Tarkowski. And I'm not putting the blame on Tarkowski because it's just we've been... So that's a position where you don't even think about because you go, oh, Tarky's playing well or whatever. But it is a problem because if you want to play a higher line, you've got to have that pace. So I don't think that's for now, but that's certainly where we need to look at it.
You're right. And for me, you could... Because you're talking about fullbacks ultimately, right? If we ended up with a modern fullback at right back, and maybe Patterson's that, maybe he's not, who knows? He could have a run, really, hasn't he? And you match that up on the other side, you can see O'Brien moving to the left and Tark being the one that drops out, right? And then you've got 2 relatively young centre-backs, both who are comfortable on the ball, both with probably enough pace, yeah, as centre-backs. And you think, well, there's your 4 set, you know? But that's your summertime stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's your summertime stuff.
Well, that's your long-term stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's your long-term. We need to bring in... Well, we could bring in players who were in for the short-term and the long-term now, just depending on what the market looks like.
Well, that's the point. If we get the players now that we want, we would want to give a 2.5, 3 year contract to, or 3.5 perhaps of the right age, then do it.
Yeah.
Right? And that'd be really cool. But let's not just bring in what this current manager wants for the next 6 months and give them 3.5 year contracts.
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
But David's smart enough not to do that anyway, so...
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, he knows what he wants from a player. It's not always been too... The way he does it hasn't always been something that the Everton fans have enjoyed sitting through.
He hasn't been here for a long time.
No, but...
There'll be youngsters out there not knowing why he was called Dithering Dave. Yeah.
But it all, it normally worked out well because the players he got were all brilliant, and the ones he missed out on, there weren't too many that he missed out on that you look back and go, oh, I wish we'd got him. It's just at the time and the place when you're desperate for new signings and you don't get them, it always, and someone else, they end up going somewhere else. It always stings a little bit, but.
But what he got running last time and what the football club needs now, it's a bit like knowledge base. You talk about this, in industry or normal day jobs. If I'm the subject matter expert on something, and you think if it's a pint glass and it's full, I just have to keep my glass full, right? But if it's half empty, I've got to fill it up first.
Yeah.
And that's where City have been for years, isn't it? 1 or 2 players every now and again, just making the squad, or United for 20-odd years, right? But when you fall off that very successful treadmill and all of a sudden there's 4 or 5 players you have to deal with, then it all gets really hard and difficult.
Well, you end up with a situation like City are in now where you're buying young talent in January for a hell of a lot of money because you haven't done the homework to get them in earlier at a cheaper price because you've left yourself open. Carlos Gauss on the Super Chat just says, subscribe for travel videos, fellow views. There you go. If you want to watch Carl's travel videos, he's basically paid for an advert, so I have to read it out. But fair play to him. If he's, there you go. Fair play to him.
Cool.
Can't argue with that. Lots of people watching, so I'm just trying to keep up with all the comments.
This is Premier, isn't it?
No, this is on YouTube.
We've only got 94,002.
I don't know what you want me to say. We there's a lot of people watching, and they're probably already subscribed. So it's it's about the other people, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's about those other people.
So if you're watching and you've not subscribed, you can have more of this.
Well, there's a lot of people who watch you aren't subscribed.
How many are watching anyway?
There's over 1,000.
That's good.
Don't worry about it.
I'm not.
Don't worry about it. Well, it just feels like you are worried about it because you asked.
Don't do worrying.
Well, you say that. No, Alex K, don't ever use that slogan. It's a terrible, terrible slogan, and I won't even repeat it on this channel. Horrible. I'm just telling them not to use it. A lot of people asking what my favourite plane is. I don't really have a favourite plane. Yeah. Don't yeah.
So if you went out now and you wanted to see a plane flying over, would it be that one you saw today or a different one?
What if I could just be in it?
Yeah, well, you're so giddy when you came in just because you'd seen an aeroplane.
I like a plane that has a whale's face on it.
So that's what it was.
It's got a big smiley whale's face on it. What I've done is I've Disney-fied it. Do you know?
Yeah, I can see
I've
it.
Disney-fied it, and it's made me feel happier because of Disney.
Like Dumbo, yeah.
Well, it's just like a big smiley plane, innit? I don't know.
So Spitfire with shark's teeth on it, would that make you scream?
Well, it'd make me happy if I was in the bleeding war.
Yeah.
And I saw one coming in. I'm sure that would make me.
Or you were sitting in the back with Dan in the front. Yeah, you could bend his ear.
I don't think I would be up for that. I'll be honest. I'll be, imagine Dan said, "You can interview me, but but it's from the back of a Spitfire." I think that'd
do it.
That'd be a really interesting. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't.
Go in the back of a fighter with Dan doing the driving, and you could interview him. I think that'd be
really interesting,
that'd
wouldn't
be cool.
it? You can interview me, but it has to be in the back of a Spitfire while we're doing like barrel rolls and stuff.
Oh yeah, how cool that would.
Just that to me would that would be interesting. I think that would be
skimming the artistic installation in Crosby Beach.
See, I think for Everton, though, that's the kind of model they need to start looking at for content.
Totally viral.
Do you know what I mean? That would be like the best viral content ever. Get someone in the back to interview Dan Friedkin while he's flying his plane, and he does a couple of barrel rolls, and they're like, "Moo." Remember like the old days when they had like TV shows where
painted blue with CO.
Remember the crunchy plane? Remember the crunchy plane? And they used to get the wing walkers.
Yeah.
And I think you could do like interviews like that.
He's flying in your.
But you'd be like, you'd be going to ask him a dead difficult question. You'd be like, "What's your favourite colour?" Because you just wouldn't have a clue what to ask him.
Dan will be interviewed by anyone who's prepared to be strapped to a wing. Yeah.
Fair play.
And if there's more than one, we'll draw lots. Yeah.
Fair play. Yeah. I know it's called the Beluga. I'm well aware of what it's called.
What's its proper name? Is that its proper name?
It is. That's why it's called. It is called the Beluga, isn't it?
I don't know. That's why I asked you. You being the expert and all that.
I'm not thinking I'm an expert. It's just like looking up at the sky and seeing a plane with a smiley face. That don't make me the expert, does it?
Is there only the one with the smiley face?
I think there's probably two of them, I'd imagine. If you're going to make one, you might as well make two, mightn't you?
Do you think it goes back to France empty?
No, I think they take stuff back to. I think the main factory is in France.
It is actually called the Airbus A300-600 ST
Beluga.
Yeah. Or Beluga. So it's technical names, that big long thing.
Anyone using that phrase in the comments is getting binned.
Has it got great in it?
Yeah, it has.
Okay, don't go there, people.
They're getting binned for 24 hours.
Don't go there.
I'm just going to do it. I just it's a horrible phrase, and I will not have it on my watch. It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. So what is the first position you would buy, John? Let's just hypothetical. You get the checkbook tomorrow morning and you get to buy a player. What position
I'll give you my view as long as you don't say it. And what's the name of the player? Yeah.
No, this is totally on you.
Yeah. A right-sided, we'll call them a midfield player, right? As in winger stroke midfield player with more pace than anyone else in their team's currently got.
Okay. Because is that what you obviously believe?
I think the offensive stuff would be a sea change with that threat.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's the position we all had in our mind anyway, and I don't think that should be changing, should it? I think right midfield is definitely positioned.
Yeah.
It's great that Lindstrom's done well, but none of us actually believe Jack Harrison's a right midfielder.
No.
He's a left midfielder.
He needs to be given a chance on the other side before he fundamentally becomes a bench warmer, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I think, certainly gets opportunities off the bench to come on and play there and say, that's my position.
Absolutely.
Because I imagine himself, he's frustrated that
He's done a job. He's taken one for the team in a way.
It must be really horrible playing for a football team and you're not in the team and it's not your position that you haven't played well in, and you're going, lads, just give me an opportunity on that other side. And I find it staggering that was never afforded to him, that opportunity to play under the last manager on the left-hand side when clearly the manager wasn't, we couldn't get any more out of him on the right. I just find that so strange that you would never go, you know what, why not give him an opportunity? Why not bring him on the bench, off the bench on the left-hand side? And because Njai has been so good out there, but obviously if he tires in games, or God forbid we'd been winning in a game, and you go, right, how do we see this out? Let's put Jack Harrison on the left, because you know he'll work hard defensively and is left-footed. So it gives you a really good balance. And it's just so strange that he never got that opportunity.
Well, the thing I know is, that's like game plan type stuff, what you're describing, i.e. start him on the left, for example, whatever. But the thing that surprised me, and all that time, particularly when he was having a mare, right? Not even in-game. Clubs all the time. The wide players swap over, don't they, for 10 minutes and all that sort of stuff. And I just don't recall it ever happening. So it's like Jack Harrison was getting told, your job is to protect that bloke behind you.
Yeah.
You know, which means you compromise them both in some respects. You know, Nathan Patterson will be going, I don't need protecting.
Yeah.
You know, but Ashley does. Yeah. So there's some, and I think this manager will be far more decisive in those things, I think. And he demonstrates that to some degree the other night, didn't he? So I think, well, I like the fact, and we talked about it, that he said, I needed to find a way to put O'Brien in the team. Yeah. And that's where he ended up.
Yeah. Right? I will find a place for him.
Yeah. Because of his comfort on the ball, and his size is going to worry people as well, isn't it? And we may find Tark gets more room now. You know, we saw that with the third goal, didn't we? So
yeah.
We're all more buoyant because
of course, of course, we're all looking at the positives and what we can do, with the players we've got, and it makes everyone seem a little bit better. But the problems are still there, and the lack of players is still there, and we have to. Hopefully, we will dip in the next week or two.
Yeah, I think so.
And
then the manager will have the luxury, because it will be a luxury compared to recent times, of trying to decide who to put on the bench, because he has choices for the bench.
We've had two goalkeepers on the bench for the last two games. I mean, that shows you straight away.
Yeah.
We've got two goalkeepers and a young lad. They're not going to play. That's three. That's three out of your subs that aren't going to play. And then you've got a couple of full-backs and a centre-back, and it's like, where's the real options? Where are the options that are going to change? Or
there's very few game-changing options, if any. Yeah.
And what I would say is mostly the top teams have game-changing options. Yeah. But what a lot of teams have now is a consistency. A player...
Like a proper like-for-like with small drop-off.
And a player that the next week will go into the team and you don't see any drop-off. You don't look at them and go, oh, why is he playing him? And that simply at the moment is something we don't have. We don't have a player that you can go... Every player, not every player, but nearly every player, maybe bar what's been happening on the right-hand side at the moment, is you look at them and go, you know, Mikalenko, there's no real replacement for them. Right back there's lots of options, and I appreciate that. But the centre-backs, you just go, they're the centre-backs, and you couldn't change them. So that's got to be But
if you looked at the 9 subs from the other night, the only ones who had any regularity of starting were Harrison and Young.
Yeah.
Everybody else, as you say, is a goalkeeper, is a kid, is Beto, is Key, you know. Yeah. So you really, you know, if you were in the Dyche days, and I know they were only a week or so ago, but if you're in the Dyche days, if you want Premier League experience, then you would also value current Premier League experience. Yeah. He'd be looking at his bench thinking, well, the only two I can bring on really a Young or Beto or Harrison, 3 rather, or maybe Keane at a stretch, which is your point.
Yeah.
There's 3 there who he's never going to go near.
Yeah. Well, Sunday, you wouldn't have brought Beto on, would you? Because the shape of the team said this obviously, and Sunday was a very good example of it. The way Don played, you can't bring Beto on in that stage of the game because you know that he doesn't have the qualities, and that would allow Spurs to go 10 yards even further up the pitch. So you want that player who's going to hold the ball up, and Beto just doesn't have those qualities. He has different qualities. And, you know, and
that's where you start to then question, as you did, I think, when, I don't know which one it was, it might be when you're doing your ratings and stuff, that the manager then brought on perhaps the wrong types of subs because he didn't have the like for like.
No.
You know, so when Lindstrom had run himself into the ground, Well, who can I put on now?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And clearly he didn't want it to be Harrison, did he?
No, not at this stage.
Yeah,
No,
so-
not at this stage. Just looking at some of the comments. Terry McKenna says we're not going to find quality easily, so we have to go short term or long term. The fact that we haven't made the purchase yet tells me the story of the budget problems. The owners think that we can tough it out until the summer. I don't think the last bit's applicable as such. I know what you're saying. I just think that the first part, you're absolutely right. There's players that you go, we could get them now, they could give maybe a little bit of an impact, but actually they're long-term players. And those short-term players are obviously loans, but we don't have much wiggle room with the loans. We've only got one domestic if we send Brozier back.
Yeah.
And obviously the international ones, we've already got someone from Lyon, so we can't bring in young kid, obviously on loan. And we want to get away from buying players that are going to help in the short term, but aren't maybe long term. Because we've been
we've been stung by that.
We've been found, haven't we?
Yeah.
Been found out. And obviously, if you think back of like Allardyce was probably the best example of that, dropping like nearly £50 million on 2 players. That Walcott, and he done a little bit short term, but long term it wasn't a great signing. And Cenk Tosin clearly just wasn't a good signing whatsoever. Not for that kind of money. Maybe
players overpaid for.
Maybe half the price you would have gone. Yeah, maybe. But that was again that thing of not having a good plan, not seeing what you really need, not getting value for money more than anything.
It is interesting. Well, to me anyway, that the plan, which you'd spent a number of months on, you would like it to have had, its primary assumption was new owners. Right? If they were going day to day and being distracted by is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? If it is going to happen, when's it going to? And all those sorts of things. But everyone knew for a long, long time that when the new owners happened, this is what would happen. Write off of debt, this, that, and the other. Primary focus: stay in the league, refresh in the summer, go into the new stadium. So our plan has to have been ready to go.
Yeah.
And then the variations on said plan are what happens if it's the current manager or the manager changes. What are we going to do? And I just hope that behind the scenes a fair amount of that was done in an objective way. And we'll know in a week or two's time, won't we?
But then that's the other side of it, though, isn't it?
And it takes two to tango. We might have targets that no one wants to give us, or those players we want and their clubs are prepared to sell don't want to come here, or whatever.
The other side of it is obviously Kevin Felwell's contract, isn't it? And that side of things. I mean, can he go about his business? I mean, obviously he has to. He's got a job. It doesn't really matter just because he's in his last 6 months of his contract. But can he? Because you're right what you said before. Actually, for this window, his work should have been done in the last 6 months for this window.
Yeah.
But do Everton have to establish? Or do the owners have to establish something there as well with him in terms of like yes or no? Or do you leave that till actually when the window's closed to say?
His status, it doesn't seem too much of an issue for me that it's dealt with after the window's closed. If you're being really horrible about it, he's got no future at the football club because they're not going to renew his agreement, or the opposite, he doesn't want to, then they just come to an agreement that he goes now and how much he gets paid, don't they?
Yeah.
But anyone who's got any experience in negotiating, you've got to be in a position where you can make the deal here and now across the table. If me and you are negotiating, it doesn't matter what we're negotiating about, and you can do the deal here and now, and I say, well, okay, I think that's all right. Just go and ask my bosses if it's okay. That's a really weak place to be. I very much doubt whether agents are that fussed whether Thelwell's there in July or not. Yeah. If they're negotiating with him, they're just trying to get the best deal for their player. Managers do influence the attraction of going to a club or not, don't they? But I don't think directors of football do.
Do you think that makes it? Do you think that?
Unless you talk about pathways.
But do you think that makes it easier for Moyes in this window then? Because if Kevin Felwell is almost like a lame duck, he's done the work, but he's almost like a lame duck. And does that make it easier for Moyes to put his mark on this window? Because Felwell's has got he's got nowhere to go, has he? If they've already decided that he's not staying and he sort of knows that, then it does give Moyes a free hit in many ways.
If you're truly objective about it and you're a manager that a football club wants and you know the director of football is out of contract in the summer, I'm sure you would have asked, who am I going to be working with? Is this guy definitely getting a new contract? And if he's not, I'd like to know, because that might influence whether I'm coming in the first place, mightn't it? But yeah, to some degree, if David and Kevin are having a debate, call it an argument, if you will, about shall we get the ginger lad in the yellow shirt, and one wants him and the other one doesn't, and David's the one who doesn't, he can say, well, I'm going to be here, mate. There's no certainty you are. Yeah. I should have to live with your decisions after you've gone, right? And you're always going to get that, but it's always going to be on the tipping points, right? Who do we go with? You know, you see Mark Douglas doing his article. That's the one sent me on WhatsApp, where it fundamentally says Moyes is going to get more influence. But yet on social media, the story is, until they make a decision on him, the owners are going to back the director of football. Well, there's a clear conflict there. Yeah, you can't have both, right? So clearly, the different sides of the same coin, and when the pedal hits the metal, it's going to come down on Moyes' side. He's the one sitting on a 2.5-year contract.
It is funny though, isn't it? Because the director of football thing, it's got this name, but it means so many different things.
Of course it does, yeah.
You know, the Manchester United. I was listening to stuff last night. It was like Manchester United with Dan Ashworth thought they were getting something that they weren't getting, and it took them 6 months to realise that what the guy was good at was not what they needed. Now, obviously, that's absolutely terrible for the people who give him the job. And they
appointed a guy with a job title rather than understood
what he was good at. And then asked him, this is sort of like the argument I've had with some people who obviously love the model, is that like at Villa, they brought in the manager, give him all the power, and one of the powers was he went out and got Monchi as his director of football because he's his mate and he knows how, and they work together brilliantly. That's the manager setting the standards and going, this guy's brilliant and we work together brilliant and we have that trust. So there's nothing wrong either in saying giving the manager the power, but he, like, and again, we heard it a bit last week, but if Moyes goes, I won't wear, because I know we've got a brilliant relationship, we trust each other, and he's the kind of director of football I want if we're going to have one, then if that's the relationship, to get people like, oh no, you're giving too much power to the manager. But if you've brought a manager in to have that power in the first place, the things we heard when Moyes came in was he's going to shape the club for the next thing or whatever. You know,
that's scary.
Well, it's not.
It is.
But is it? But then would you say that? All right. But would you say forget the person? But that's what's happening in Villa. No,
I don't think. Emery is shaping the club.
He is. He's the man. I'm telling you this right now. Emery was given carte blanche when he went into Villa.
On the footballing side.
Yeah, but everything.
But not the club.
Standards. He came in and he was. I want him. He came in and set the standards. Not the director of football, because there wasn't that. He brought the.
The director of football shouldn't have all that authority. See, there's a fundamental difference between setting the direction for the club and setting the direction for the playing side. And you might think they're indivisible, but they're not, right? Strategy, if you want to call it that, for the football club is set at board level, right? And part of the enactment of that is what you're doing on the sporting side. But anyway, more relevant, I think, on this debate is, if you have a director of football and a manager, which clearly, if you have a director of football, you will have a manager, as long as one of them holds sway, in other words, and they both understand and accept that the director of football has final say or the manager has final say, then for a period of time you're going to be okay. But you need oversight. Because you lose 5 matches on the bounce and Emery's job is at risk. Right? And if his job's at risk, but his mate's never going to pull the trigger because he's his mate, and his mate only got the job because he's his mate, you might as well have a manager with 2 yes men.
Isn't that like? But isn't that again? Isn't that another like thing of the whole thing of like understanding straight away that the director of football isn't sacking him anyway because that's just not in his job.
That's right. Remit. That's what I mean. What I'm saying is, if you come down on the side as given all the authority to the manager, and basically he has a gopher called the director of football when he says, go get me that player or go get me a player like this or whatever. And firstly, this guy's really head of recruitment, isn't he?
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Or head of academy, not really a director of football.
That's what I'm saying. it's a term that gets thrown around.
It does, to mean many different things.
And it means loads of different things.
So what do you think it should mean? In your version of the model, how would you have it?
I always think it's a guy who's setting up the footballing side for the long term. So that's first team, an academy, setting the pathways, how we're going to do things, setting all that up. But I do think that when it comes to the manager, it's knowing what you need, but not necessarily saying, "I have got this one guy, and you will play this one guy." I don't think football's too. There's too many moving parts. Like, I can understand it in other sports, like baseball, let's say, because obviously that's the example for Moneyball, isn't it? But I think in football it should be more like, I've found you these kind of players, or you've worked together all the way on these 2 or 3 players, and all of them fit the criteria. And then the manager goes, "Well, I think this one will fit." And both of them have done their jobs then. Both of them have done their jobs. But it has to fit a certain criteria.
That's the key, right? The criteria. And it might be stuff like
age, wage.
Yeah, someone over 28 never gets more than 2 + 1 as a contract option, right? Or whatever, things like that. Yeah. If we're buying them, say for a 5-year contract, they've got to be less than 23. That those sorts of things. If we're buying a player in this position, in the modern game, they need a certain amount of pace. They need to be 6 foot, say right back, I don't know, whatever, 6 foot tall, and you've got all these criterias. And then the manager goes, "Patterson's not up to it, I want a new one." Or Mikalenko's not up to it, I want a new one. And the director of football's got all the other criteria. And he gets told by the finance people how much money we've got to spend. And he goes, "These guys, these 3, 4, 5, whatever it is, they fit into the criteria as defined by the football club. Where are you at, Mr. Manager?" And the manager might go, "Well, at West Ham, I had this fella, I really like him, but he doesn't meet our criteria." And then you've got to talk about needs must then, because every exceptions prove the rule, don't they? But if in the round you're doing it to a proper ology, and by the way, you and the director of football definition, I'd go medium long term is the director of football, but don't forget tomorrow's medium term is next week's short term, because the actual end-to-end is probably less than 5 years. Long term's 5 years, right? So medium term's 3 or less.
Yeah.
Short term's till the next transfer window, right? Yeah. And as long as they consult and inform and they work together effectively, you should never really get to a situation where they're totally falling out over it. I want him, well, you can't have him. And that should always, I would imagine, the real disagreement is going to come about money.
Yeah.
And then you just go to the owner, don't you, say, this doesn't fall within our remit, but we really think this guy really makes a difference. But just the stuff that's happened in the past, like, "Oh, we'll have that player because we don't have to pay to him till next week," it's crazy.
Well, I said that.
Crazy.
I said that 2.5 years ago.
Totally. That's the point.
About McNeil.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm not having a go at McNeil. But you should never, ever sign a player based on the fact that you don't have to, because he's the one you don't have to pay for up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
You still have to pay for them, by the way. But I just, that can't be, and that can't be how you decide who you're buying.
Absolutely.
Well, we're buying him because we don't have to pay anything up front. You should never be in that position as a football club.
And the curiosity, and you can do this in normal business. I used to say to my people, like when they were fundamentally wanting to spend money on stuff, and I said, well, if this particular deal we're working on goes away, will that money go away as well? We won't spend it, because if the answer's no, we're not doing it, because you can't just use something as an excuse. And in footballing terms, it would be, in the example of McNeil, what was he allegedly cost, 25 million quid or something. If you said to the director of football, Dwight McNeil, really? Say you're the manager or the oversight, you say, well, if I give you £25 million cash now to go and buy a player, will you buy him?
Yeah, exactly.
And if the answer is no, we're not buying him now then. Yeah. Don't have a bum on a seat or a player in a slot rather than have an empty slot.
Yeah. And I think the fundamental thing is that no manager who comes in should ever be able to go, I'm going to assert my power on this.
No, I would like them to, or try.
No,
and then you get natural tension.
No, what I mean is by that is like you can't, like when Benitez came in and basically brought his own recruitment team in. That should
wrong.
never be allowed.
Totally wrong.
That should never be allowed to happen at a football club.
Just no.
That shouldn't be able to happen.
Totally agree.
Moyes coming in can go, I'm sitting down with you. I've got. Have you seen these three? And he might go, yeah, we've looked at that. I don't really think they. And you come to you have a, obviously, like you just say, you have maybe a button together.
Natural tension.
But you should never have, well, I'll tell you what then, I don't, like with brands, I don't like actually anything you do because I've got these fellas who are my recruitment
and
team.
I'm saying I'm not going to play them though.
Yeah. That should never ever happen. So as long as, it's modern football, isn't
But
it?
if you get it, as we started to talk about earlier on, where the pint glass is full and you're just keeping it topped up, a lot of the tension goes away.
Yeah.
Because you've worked successfully together.
Yeah.
You've had disagreements. You've give David what he wants and it worked, or it didn't. But you both know now, and the same the other way around. But give and take. You want to challenge your environment where it's okay to say, I don't think he's worth anything like that, David. Yeah, but I want him because I know he doesn't let me down. I know this, I know that, and that's what we need. And so, okay, how can we get him for the shortest contract possible then? So you almost have your internal negotiations to get to agreement. And if you can't agree, don't do it. Don't just go with one of them.
Yeah.
You don't have a director of football saying, oh, the last manager did that. We're stuck with him now. Yeah. Or the opposite. The last manager wouldn't have him. And look where he's gone on to great things somewhere else. And me and Baz have talked about it on the business sides, right? If neither party can convince the other one of their thoughts, there's an issue there. Because then maybe they're not convinced themselves. And we know what managers can be like. Managers should be the most demanding person in the whole football club. I want every penny this football club's got on buying me better players. End of. And you, Mr. Director of Football, are the bridge between me and the people with the money.
Yeah.
You know? And I recognise, medium, long term, short, all those sorts of things. But guess what? I'm the guy who gets sacked in May if we get relegated. So I reserve the right to be demanding about the here and now. But the chance to set the scene on all of this is when a manager comes in. If David Moyes really, really wants this job, which he did, I guess, then it's explained to him. Same with Benitez when he did it. Same with Dyche when he did it, and so on. It's explained to them how the MO works. Yeah.
And also, he's not the same man that left, is he?
No.
When he left, he was at a club where about 3 people did all the work.
Oh yeah, and directors of football weren't even
exactly. He was the director of football.
He was, yeah.
The irony of David Moyes is he went to Manchester United and didn't sort of put his own stamp on things.
Wasn't there long enough.
No, but what I mean by that is he went in and he sort of like whereas Everton, he was very bullish about everything. I think when he went to Manchester United, it was like, this place is massive. Yeah. I'll leave things, and maybe that cost him. But he's been to West Ham and he's worked with the directors of football, and he looks in general like he's mellowed quite a lot and understand. I know he's
still scary.
I know. Well, I don't
For some, I'm sure he's still scary.
I listened to him and he's talked loads of times about why can't ex-managers be, or people, why can't they be directors of football? And again, sometimes I think he's talking about recruitment rather than.
Again, you're back to terminology.
Yeah, about what Dan Ashworth was a director of football, and but he didn't find players. Yeah. That wasn't what he did.
No, he set the environment up.
Yeah, he set the environment.
Which is sort of, sorry, beg your pardon.
Go on.
You're off. Which is sort of what Thelwell's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So therefore, there shouldn't be that conflict, should there? No. If that's what they do. So it's it'll be very interesting when we do sign that first player
to see whose badges are.
Just to see, yeah. I mean, has it come from the big book of Thelwell?
Yeah.
Or has it come, which has only got about 4 players in it?
If a player was the right one for you to get in August, maybe there still are the right ones you get in.
No, I agree with that. So I agree with that. If you've chased a player, sometimes I find it odd when clubs do it the other way around, when they chase a player for ages and it doesn't go through for some reason.
So they forget them forever.
And then, we've seen not just Everton, but I've seen players at other clubs where they've chased them all summer, and then there's been some hiccup, or they found something, and then they never go back for them. And yet, you go back to actually one of the most famous ones, which was Ruud van Nistelrooy. Manchester United chased him and chased him. He got a knee injury the day before
right.
he was supposed to sign.
Yeah.
ACL. Remember seeing they actually filmed him getting the ACL.
And Sir Alex just kept him
In the
warm,
training camp.
didn't
He was training and they filmed him training because they were like, he's going to be signing for Man United. And he got an ACL in front of that and he was screaming. Put it off for a year. Went back for him. Went, no, he's amazing. We're getting him. And the rest is history. It was unbelievable.
And in between times, Sir Alex kept him warm.
Yeah.
How are you getting on? How's your recovery? We haven't forgotten about you. Blah, blah, blah. Feel the love, right?
Exactly.
And all that sort of
they
stuff.
got him and he was amazing. Sometimes it is strange that clubs go, this player, they're chasing for months. Something comes up that is not, whatever it is, they get an injury maybe. Let's say that's a good example. Or they just can't get the deal over the line because of one thing or another. The club are asking too much because of the contract, and a year later there's circumstances have changed. So I find it strange when that happens. But so I don't have a problem with going. It's just weird sometimes when you chase a player like Nonto, let's say, and you can't get him, and you've been told you're not having him, and then you go, "Oh, we don't know any other right midfielders." Then that's when I find it strange when you haven't got an alternative. That's when I find it weird that basically you've been told not having him. You never sign him for you. He signs a new contract. So the terms have gone up now. That's where I do think Felwell has fallen down a couple of times.
At a time when no other Premier League clubs are chasing the same player.
Well, that's what made him attractive to Everton. Was that there wasn't a bidding war. I think that's why. Again, that's when you find that's part of that whole, almost like that. There's no down payment. We're not in competition for anyone with them. You know, we went after Traore. Built that what was his name? Bill Torre last year, and it was like the minute someone came in and had real cash to play up front, we were out.
And that's the malaise that our recruitment people have suffered of not having the money. Well, let's just assume right now we have more money than we did last summer.
Yeah.
In cash terms, I mean, to get deals over the line. So prove it.
Yeah.
Get the players that the director of football's happy with and the manager's happy with, and get them over the line. But football just comfortably just lets it happen in the last week, doesn't it? You know, Premier League should say your transfer window's 1 week.
I think it should be.
Yeah, you can do all your planning offline, and it's 1 week.
But then again, isn't that more about us? Isn't that more about like?
No, all clubs do it. Don't
No,
they?
I don't mean us as in. I mean us as in general football fans.
Oh, right.
We build these windows up to almost in our heads be why aren't you buying players? You're given a month. Doesn't mean you have to buy players in that month.
That's true.
And it also doesn't mean you have to buy them on the first day. Things can change during the month.
Why do we have a month? Why can't you just buy them, sell them whenever you feel like it?
Well, because I think that can...
Like they did in the good old days.
Yeah. I don't know if there's an actual... There's
no reason.
There's the same... You get that same frenzy, don't you? But I think we as...
Back in the day, you didn't.
Oh, you did on the last day. There was a lot of horse.
I'm talking about when there's no window at all. You can buy and sell whenever you feel like it. Throughout the season.
Don't you think though? Yeah, the window shut at Easter, didn't it? Just after Easter.
Oh, sorry, near the end.
No, I know, but don't you think that leads
August all the way?
But don't you think that if there's no window, that leads you to like a general anxiety amongst football fans of like, you like to think when the window shuts, if you've got a hot commodity, you like to think, oh, he's ours now for the rest of the year. We'll get through. No, we're not selling him in January. There's no chance. I just think that if you've got an open window all the time, that can lead to a little bit of mischief as well, I think.
Oh, of course it can, because
players being tapped up.
People with loads of money can just allegedly, cherry pick, can't they?
I think mentally, it's a big thing as well. When the window shuts and a player knows he's not being sold, he has to get on with it then. He can't down. Whereas if that drags on, where that player can be bought at any time, that could lead to some serious problems.
So when it shuts in August, that's it till next August then?
No, but I think January's there for injuries, though, isn't it? More than anything.
You can have an exception if it's injuries, can't you?
I know, but then you're putting exceptions in, and it's just nonsense. Then it's a month, isn't it? It's a month. You can buy if you want. You don't have to buy. It does start getting busy in the second half, of course, as teams start looking around and do what do we need, what don't we need. You'd think that would already be sorted, but injuries pop up.
Because you have dominoes, right? Even if you're ready to go, Everton rock up on January the 1st and say, we'll have Ped. You say, well, we'll sell, we do the deal, Ped signs it, everyone's happy. You say, well, we'll can't let him go though, so we got a replacement. Yeah, and that's where all the domino stuff. And that's why it all happens late on, isn't it? So anyway, no yellow ties anyway, even yellow t-shirts, but no yellow ties.
There you
anymore,
go. There you go. We're changing the game.
Yeah,
Yellow t-shirts for
Changing the
everybody.
narrative.
We're changing it for everybody. Yeah, there you go. Thanks for all your comments. Just looking through them, just trying to get
everyone who asked something.
No, because there's about 1 million comments. I can't answer every comment, can I? I'm just looking for. I can't.
Baz does.
No, well, I can't. That means we're talking less.
True.
And I like the sound of my own voice talking about planes
Join the club, yeah.
with happy smiley faces on. I'm sorry to say. The general consensus is Broughton's in Wales. I have took that from the comments. Is it like Chester's Ground though, where it's got half a foot in Wales and half a foot in England? I don't know. That's the general consensus though, that Broughton is in Wales.
Broughton is a village and civic parish in the Test Valley district of... No, that's bloody a different Broughton. That's Hampshire. I haven't got time to get the right one. Nearly said in Hampshire then. But there is a Broughton in Hampshire, but not the one we're talking about.
It's the big question. It's the question everyone wants to hear.
Yeah. Flintshire. It's Welsh, isn't it?
Flintshire.
Yeah, it's in Flintshire, Wales, close to the Wales-England border. So it is in Wales, yeah.
But I'm saying is half the runway in England, half of it in Wales.
You're talking about an airport now.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not talking about the village. I couldn't care less about the village. The plane doesn't land in the village, does it?
Right.
Baz, these are the things people want to know, mate. These are the things.
To be honest, the more interesting the football.
Is Carlo has he said something about leaving Real Madrid?
Has he?
And definitely leaving, yeah.
There was a quote that came up that said, like, it's not my decision to leave.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Is this because Alphonso Davies has signed a new contract at Bayern Munich? The dream's not happening. The dream of him at left back and Trent at right back isn't happening. That was the dream everyone wanted.
Ooh.
Well, that's for them tag anyway. We'll talk more about that. What? I don't know. Why have you thrown a cat in? Why have you used... Why though? Why throw cats? Why not a fox?
Cats have 9 lives.
Okay.
Throwing them is less dangerous.
Not for the cat, it's not.
It is.
And not for me.
It depends
I've
where
only got one life, and I get it by a cat. With, he's been having his shire seeds today. God knows what kind
But
of
it
force
hasn't
he'll
used any
throw
of
it.
its lives up,
Oh, that's all right. Then it'll be a soft, billowing cat that hits me. And if he threw a cat, you wouldn't even know it's a cat because you wouldn't see it in his palms. You'd just think it was a little speck of dust, size of his palms. Do you ever remember Police Squad, Naked Gun?
Yeah.
Do you ever remember the joke where there was a fella who was off screen? They go, "You've got a little bit of food in your mouth," and when you go like that, a whole banana would fall. That's what he remember. That's what James reminds me of. There we go. Right, we're going. If you are a Toffee TV Premier member, we'll be live at 5 o'clock. And if you are just a general happy person, we might be on M-Tag. I don't know. Baz has just thrown curveballs. He's just said something about Kurt Zoom, and I have no idea what that reference is. I do, cats, but yeah, we'll be on M-Tag. And you'll get your lovely Baz content.
In 5 minutes.
If you are a housewife and you are waiting for the Baz content, it's coming in 5 minutes. You stay there with your little glass of rosé, waiting for your Baz content. You've just done the dishes in your penny, and you're sitting there and you're waiting. That's the
Lock and load.
That's the dream, innit? I don't know. What are they locking and loading, John?
Press end.
What are they locking and loading? Anyway,
Stereotypes, mate. Not allowed.
What for people who like Baz? Or just housewives?
Housewives, yeah.
Or house husbands.
I didn't say that's all. I said if you are a housewife with a glass of rosé. I didn't say that's what all housewives are.
In your penny.
In your penny? You can't tell me there isn't a housewife out there right now not drinking rosé or having a penny on. You can't tell me.
You can't tell me there's one doing both. Waiting for
But there
Baz as
could
well.
be. But there could be. You could. There could. See, it's a big wide world. There's definitely someone somewhere with a glass of rosé and a penny on, ready to watch Baz. That's all I'm saying. Thanks for watching.
Well,
Bye.